In this episode, I look at Aleksandr Karelin, who was described as an experiment, the Russian King Kong and the most fearsome wrestler in history. He had a truly monstrous appearance, which he emphasized with superhuman strength. At a height of 193 centimeters, he weighed a full 130 kilograms. He is said to have lifted over 200 kilograms and carried a refrigerator to the 8th floor on his own. The best proof of his strength is footage showing him throwing opponents weighing 130 kilograms into the air. However, a few facts about his achievements and his absolute supremacy in the world of wrestling should be mentioned at the beginning. His record in wrestling is an incredible 887 victories and only 2 defeats. In 13 years, from 1987 to 2000, he did not lose a single fight. What's more, for 6 years, from 1994 until his last defeat in 2000, no one was able to score a single point in a duel with the Russian Bear. He won the gold medal 3 times at the Olympic Games, 1988, 1992, and 1996. In the year 2000, he had to be satisfied with a silver medal at the event in Sydney. His successes also include 9 World Championships and 12 European Championships. He was crowned as the Soviet champion 4 times and Russian champion 8 times. His most famous technique is the Karelin lift, named after him. An opponent lying prone on the mat was lifted by the Russian and then flipped over, for which Karelin was awarded the highest score of 5 points. This technique was unique when you consider how heavy the opponents were against whom the Russian performed this throw. It is known that this technique was used, but never at super heavyweight, when we are talking about a weight of 130 kilograms. In the words of Jeff Blatnick, the Olympic champion in 1984, "I did everything I could to stop him from lifting me off the mat. I weighed 120 kilograms. I was in good shape. I was scared, very scared. I don't like flying through the air like that. The whole time I was thinking, don't let him hurt you, don't let him hurt you." With him, it's almost a victory if you don't let him throw you. His appearance, his strength, his skills, and what he did to his opponents created a real aura of fear, and it is no surprise that many of his opponents were simply terrified at the thought of going to the mat with him. There is no doubt that such a strong psychological factor definitely worked in Karelin's favor. It was the same with Mike Tyson at the peak of his form. Some opponents lost the fight against him before the duel had even begun. Aleksandr won the World Championship in 1993 with 2 broken ribs and the European Championship in 1996 with a torn pectoral muscle. Interestingly, he won the Olympic Championships just 3 months after this injury, although he probably did not compete with a fully functional arm. He had many injuries during his career. As a teenager, he broke his leg so badly that his horrified mother burnt his wrestling equipment and finally forbid him to continue the sport. However, Karelin declared that he had no intention of giving up the sport for which he would give his life. It is mentioned that his ribs were broken a total of 13 times and his arm twice. His era ended at the Olympic Games in Sydney in 2000. The Russian took part in the event to set a new record and become the first Greco-Roman wrestler to win 4 Olympic titles. He completed his first fights in no time at all, and in the final he met Rulon Gardner, a representative of the USA, an inexperienced international farmer who supposedly trained wrestling on his cows. An unequal duel was expected, but right from the start, Karelin had difficulties impressing the great Gardner. The Russian's opponent simply seemed too heavy for him to use his spectacular throws. It is also mentioned that exhaustion may have played a role, as Aleksandr had all his previous fights on the same day. At some point, the Russian made a mistake and was the first to break the clinch, which meant a point for the American under the new rules. The situation was the same for the rest of the fight. Karelin tried to lift Gardner, but he just couldn't do it. In the end, Rulon successfully defended himself and ended the fight with a 1-point advantage, causing a huge surprise. He later found his way into politics, which, however, is not the subject of this material. At this point, I'll discuss his physical attributes, how he trained, and the reason for his phenomenon. First of all, he chose his parents well. He was born in the harsh conditions of Siberia, which shaped him accordingly right from the start. He also had excellent genes. It is said that at the age of 13, he was already 179 centimeters tall and weighed 79 kilograms, making him taller than his father. He grew so quickly that he was already competing in the super heavyweight category at the age of 16, where he remained for the rest of his career. After just 1 year of training, he began his first 5-year unbeaten streak in 1982. When he won his first Olympic gold in 1988, he was 21 years old. When you look at his appearance, you can't overlook certain characteristic features. I couldn't find any information about it anywhere, but you get the feeling that Karelin has some features of acromegaly, a disease caused by excessive production of growth hormones by the pituitary gland. A characteristic facial expression with a broad lower jaw, large ears, and prominent eye sockets. Perhaps the mild form of acromegaly helped him build muscle mass and strength, but as I said, this should only be assumed very vaguely as I could find no official information about it. I have already mentioned his strength results, 200 kilograms on the bench or lifting a refrigerator to the 8th floor. He also achieved top results in gymnastics, as he was able to pull himself up 42 times with a body weight of 130 kilograms. His physique is not to be overlooked either, as he combined a large amount of muscle with a low percentage of body fat. And all this without being detected during an anti-doping test. As he said, it is human nature that we become envious when someone is very successful. I have passed every official doping test. Even if I don't have to, I voluntarily come forward because nobody believes I'm natural. He added, "People can't believe I'm a natural because I train harder every day than they've ever trained in their lives." At this point, it's worth taking a look at the way the Russian bear trains. In an interview, he said that he trains 6 times a week. On Monday mornings, he ran more than 10 kilometers through the Siberian forests, an exercise he described as crucial to his preparation. The evening sessions consisted of working on the mat with sparring partners. He also added strength training elements to this. I've already mentioned the bench press. He also liked the so-called overhead soldier presses or kettlebell exercises, which he used to train his arms. He chose the weight so that he could do 12 to 15 repetitions in 2 to 3 sets, and then increased the load so that the number of sets on the last attempt was 8 to 10. When it comes to diets, he said that he doesn't really have any as he has never had a problem maintaining his weight. He just mentioned that he doesn't tend to overeat and likes to eat flavorful and natural foods. Let me know in the comments which strongest and biggest wrestlers you know. That was Steel Shock. See you in the next episode.